It's now 4 months since the fighting broke out between Sudan's army and paramilitary forces. Air and artillery strikes and small arms fire continue, and as the conflict deepens, so does the dire humanitarian crisis in the area, with Sudanese cut off from medical and other relief supplies. So the humanitarian crisis has deepened in Sudan, where fighting has been on for months now between the Sudanese army as well as the paramilitary RSF, and like we've been telling you, this has led to a huge humanitarian crisis. There's been damage to infrastructure and looting allegations as well, and people are hoping for an end to the conflict. But negotiations are not taking place, and hence there is almost no likelihood as of now of a mediation to take place, because mediation attempts have frozen, so to say. The humanitarian crisis has been deepened there in Sudan as a result of that, and cases of crimes against women are allegedly also on the rise. So people are bearing the brunt of continuing conflict between the Sudanese army as well as the paramilitary RSF. And DD India correspondent Naba Mohina joins us from Madani with the latest. Naba, what's the current situation like for civilians? Tell us about the humanitarian crisis.
The situation right now is very fragile, still very fragile and very dire. The humanitarian situation is deteriorating every day. While I'm speaking to you right now, Durman city, which is one of the main cities in Khartoum, is under heavy clashes between the RSF and the Sudanese military, and people are sheltering under their beds because of the heavy fighting. The situation is really bad, and the number of people who were killed and the injured people is rising every day. Without health authorities, they can't even evacuate the dead bodies, or they can't count the death toll. So the situation is really fragile and deteriorating. And also the humanitarian situation, aid organizations are still unable to access those in need, especially in Khartoum, because of the unsafe humanitarian corridors, because of the heavy fighting, because of the violated ceasefire all over from time to time between the RSF and the Sudanese military. So people are still suffering from a very dire humanitarian situation with no access to food, water and medicine, which is a warning of a looming health and humanitarian crisis.
So the situation is fragile, as you put it, but what about prospects for the situation to change? Naba, are there any prospects for the situation to change going forward? We'll try and go across to Naba in subsequent bulletins, but the fact is that the humanitarian crisis in Sudan has deepened because of the fact that this has been going on for months on end, the conflict and the fighting between the Sudanese military as well as the paramilitary RSF.